Welcome to the Women's Football Show here on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Alison and I are joined today with Partick Thistle midfielder Cara Henderson and former Glasgow City midfielder Suzanne Lappin. Thanks for joining us today, ladies. Before we get into it all, Cara, we'll start with you. Partick Thistle, how do you rate the season so far?
Really highly, yeah. We've started really well. We've got some big games before Christmas though, so just the final push, and it's been a really good start, but I think we can actually play and do better, which is exciting as well.
When you set the targets at the start of the season, where are you now? Are you exceeded the expectations, would you say?
I think we're definitely where we want to be. I think there's a couple of games that we look back on and think we could have done better, but we said from the start top six, and even if we can push one better. So I think we're definitely in a good space, but still very early in the season.
Is everyone excited about this game at Firhill on the 5th?
Very, very excited. Yeah, it's a really good opportunity. It's free entry as well, so hopefully we get a lot of people in. And it's really good to sort of see the men's and the women's side blending as well to give us that opportunity to play, because whenever we've been at Firhill, it's always been a pretty good atmosphere. So we're really looking forward to it.
I imagine you've been along there before just to cheer on Brian Graham at times. Have you guys been there to give him a bit of stick in some games?
To be fair, he always seems to score when we're there, which I almost think is deliberate, to be fair. But whenever we've been to Firhill, it's always been a really good time. Obviously, the playoff run last year, and we were there at all those games. So looking forward to getting to play there, and hopefully we'll put some goals in front of Brian this time. So.
I hope you went up at Dingwall.
It's
a long journey home.
Don't speak about that, yeah.
Suzanne, when you played in those in front of larger crowds, did you prefer the atmosphere being on top of you at times as well?
Yeah, I think, for Glasgow City particularly, when we played in the Champions League, you went to some away venues and the crowd was against you, but it was a very large crowd. But it was something, back then that wasn't very common, but it was something that we were able to thrive on and enjoy. And obviously, today the girls get to do it a lot more, which is good.
I was just going to say, how you a wee bit envious of that, how the landscape has just changed a bit. You were telling us you're a big Celtic fan, so Glasgow City obviously played at Celtic Park towards the end of last season. They played at Ibrox. Do you feel as though it would have been nice just to experience all that, just to sample it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I can't lie, when Glasgow City walked out of Celtic Park, it was tough to watch, if I'm honest, because Celtic fan, but Glasgow City's my team. So I was explaining to friends, if I did score there for Glasgow City, I would have celebrated, because they're my team. And it is something that unfortunately didn't happen, when I played, but it's great where it is today. I've told a story in the past which is true, that I actually wrote to Tommy Burns as a young girl, as a young Celtic fan, asking him to have a women's team. I was very young, and he wrote back to me and said it was going to be something that happened in the future. And you look at it today, it's great to see all the clubs in Scotland get on board. But obviously for me, Glasgow City are the ones that have set the stall out and really paved the way for women's football.
That's incredible. So have you still got the letter?
I do, which is, it's something that means a lot to me. Obviously, when you write it at the time, you think this is going nowhere. But, Tommy being who he was, wrote back, and, to see the club doing what they're doing now, it's great to see.
That's the thing. I think they're going to obviously expand Barrowfield, and that'll be where the women's team are trained. That'll be their main facility. Where do they go next, do you think, in terms of this top team? Glasgow City, Celtic and Rangers, how do they take that next step? Because we've kind of seen in recent seasons just how tough it is to go in and compete at Champions League level.
Yeah, it's tough. It really is tough. When I played and we went to Champions League games, the level was just incredible. It was so high, the standard was so high that, technically, we were as good, but we were off it in terms of, the absolute elite level those players were at. And, I think today, the teams have got more of that, about the recovery, the nutrition, the strength and conditioning. They've got, all the support around them now that can allow that to, fruition for them. But, it's really difficult, because even though we are improving as a country and as clubs, so are the rest, and it's how much we can close that gap, which we've obviously seen, Glasgow City qualifying again for the quarterfinals was amazing. But, you know, we're right, we need to start doing it more and more often.
I think they're Glasgow City, the last independent team to make it through to that stage and to that level. Everyone else is affiliated with a men's team and obviously has the resources that come from that. But you do just sense over recent years, maybe over the last 3 years post-COVID, that there's been an elevation in standard again, an increase in professionalism across the board, and maybe those countries that a decade ago maybe started to really lay down the foundations of women's teams and the emergence of girls' football and proper coaching and proper facilities are now reaping the benefits of that. When you look at the likes of England, what's going on in Spain, you know, countries that maybe 10 years ago are where Scotland are just now.
Yeah, and that is it. It's all, you've got to keep pushing the boundaries, you've got to keep demanding more. You know, as a player, they need to demand more of the clubs. And you know, again, you know, I used to get asked the question, oh, why do you not go and play for Celtic when I played for Glasgow City? And, you know, being quite honest, because they didn't have the same commitment to women's football that Glasgow City had back then. So it was an easy choice for me because Glasgow City were where the resources were. It's where everything was there for girls and women to, you know, play the sport they loved. And, you know, it is good to see that, you know, more and more clubs are doing that. But, you know, it's hard to close that gap on some of the countries and where they're at.
Cara, how do you find that balance, as you're saying, your studies and the football, but also the standards in the country is rising? How do you find that to keep all that together?
I actually think it's really, really exciting. I think when I was at Celtic at youth level, like the whole promoting youth and where Celtic are now in terms of they let their sort of youth players train with them during the days and stuff as well, it's coming on leaps and bounds, and that's can only be a good thing going forward, because there's definitely more opportunity. Like Rangers have obviously smashed it with Kirsten McLean and Emma Watson and more, you know, Mia McCauley, I think Jodie are playing more this year. But I think in terms of like where we're at Partick Thistle, Motherwell and the other part-time teams, it is difficult, but I would say with like being able to play at Firhill, and just, you know, we're training more, I would say, this year, and gym plans and stuff. I think that it's definitely getting there. It's just that you obviously want to sort of close that gap a wee bit more, because it's so different being able to train all day rather than we have to sort of study. Most of our girls go to work and train at night.
I think that's the next real conundrum for the league, is how to facilitate professional contracts across the board, how to make it a full-time league. And I think if you can find a way to do that financially, that you would see a real elevation in the standard across the board. You get a stronger league, a more competitive league. I'm not sure anyone's going to live with the top three just now, but I think it would certainly lift the standard and make it a wee bit more competitive, because my own observations is that you almost have three leagues. You almost have the top three, and then you have a middle section, and then you have the bottom. I think if you could make it a more even platform, then definitely it raises the standard.
Yeah, well, let's just have a look at the league table then, whilst we spoke on that, Alison. Right now we have Rangers at the top there on 31 points, Celtic just a point behind them, Glasgow City a little bit further. Alison, it's a bit early to be making assumptions, but never too early to give an opinion. Could it be a two-horse race this year, perhaps?
I don't think so. I don't think I would ever discount Glasgow City. I think even last season, towards I think even towards the finale of last season, when it was so tight and so exciting, I think a big focus was on Celtic and Rangers and whether Celtic were going to go and win the title for the first time ever. And I think Glasgow City were very quiet and just going about their business. I think real experience there, having done it time and time again, been over the course so often. I don't think I would ever write Glasgow City out of the picture. I think it'll be very similar again this term. I think having seen all three teams quite a few times and seen them up against one another already, I think there's very, very little between them. I think Rangers just now look slightly stronger than everyone else. I think it's starting to click under Joe Potter. I thought they were very impressive last weekend in that game against Celtic. I thought they really owned the second half. Whether or not that's the pattern that follows for the remainder of the campaign remains to be seen, but I think it'll be nip and tuck between the top three again.
Cara, you've obviously played against these teams. What have you found so far this season?
I think it'll be really, really tight. I think they were all pretty impressive. I think it'll be. I couldn't call what way I think it'll go. I think that you'd be silly to count Glasgow City out right now, and I think but Celtic and Rangers both look really, really strong. I wouldn't know what way to go.
Suzanne, how impressed have you been with City so far this season?
I think they're a stronger squad than they were last season. That would be my, first observation. I think, when towards the end of last season, myself included, wrote them off, if I'm honest. I thought it was going to be difficult for them to win that title, but as we talked about, they proved everyone wrong. Not surprised with the mentality I know Leanne Ross has got. She's a winner. But I think this season, I think they've got more strength in depth, certainly than they had last year, which gives them more options. If you look at the goals they've scored this season, it's not like one or two individuals. It's goals coming from the whole squad, which you need, particularly in a title race. I don't think Leanne's got them where she wants them to be. I think they've still got another level to go, and I know she's still trying to, put her own stamp and, tactics within the team. But I think they'll only improve as the course of the season goes on.
How beneficial is that for them to have someone like Leanne in there who's been there, done it, worn the t-shirt? How crucial can she be?
Yeah, massive. She knows what the club's all about. It's a winning mentality. Sometimes our training games when I played were, really, really competitive. There was one time I think a couple of us left training because it was that, you were that uptight that your team was losing. So very, very competitive environment, and I know that's what she'll be installing. I've actually been surprised at how calm she is on the sidelines at some of the games I've seen her, because she wasn't that as a player. But I think that's, you need a level head as a manager, and, being able to keep that on the sidelines. But our winner's mentality, our experience as well, and even our coaching ability. Even when she played, she had a great coaching ability with the younger players, even as an older player. So, I think just to be there as a player, you'll learn a lot from Leanne Ross.
Yeah, and Alison, they've definitely got a wealth of experience in their squad as well, like you were saying at the tail end of last season.
Yeah, and I think they also are a team full of international players as well. There's real quality within there. I honestly think if you to look at all three squads, I think there's very, very little between them. I think you've got three teams who are all very similar. I think it will be as tight as what it will be. I think it might come down this season to the head-to-heads, how they compete and fare against one another. And that result again last weekend when Rangers won, I think could be very interesting just in terms of what they take from that psychologically, and giving them the belief that they're capable of going on and win the title. Because I felt last term Rangers were the team that you just sensed had lost that conviction about performances, whereas Celtic and City, I think you could sense it. There was just a feeling, an aura around both those clubs that they really thought they were going to go and win it. Rangers, I thought, had lost it a bit. And I think that win last weekend will maybe go a long way just to giving them that kind of confidence in their own ability and in a new structure and system that they're playing.
Well, let's have a look at the fixtures coming up this weekend then. We have Montrose and Hibs, Partick Thistle take on Hamilton, Hearts and Glasgow City, Dundee United face Celtic, Motherwell and Aberdeen, and Rangers take on Spartans. Suzanne, any fixtures in particular there that stand out to you? Could be exciting draws.
I think Hearts versus Glasgow City. I think going to Hearts away is a difficult game. I think Hearts have probably not had the start to the season that they would have hoped. I think last season for me they were a real surprise package in terms of the results they produced. I think Rangers dropped points to them last season as well, but I don't think they've started the season great. But that being said, it's always a difficult fixture when you go there. So I think if we focus on the top three, that's potentially one that Glasgow City could drop points in.
Yeah. Cara, obviously, Partick Thistle take on Hamilton this weekend. When you go up against teams who are near the bottom end of the table, what do you find? Are they a little bit more aggressive, trying to get something out of the game?
Yeah, I think you definitely can't underestimate them at all. They've got Josephine Giard up front, who's a constant threat. They've got good players throughout the team. So, yeah, I think it's more of a battle. But, we obviously want to try and make it not. It'll be at Firhill, huge pitch, obviously a good opportunity to go get on the ball. And I think that these are the games that are just so important to win. We know that sort of when it comes down to it, the top three, it's a free hit. We want to try our best, but those are the games that matter, and we need to go and put in a good performance and get the 3 points.
Have you got a lot of family and friends going to the game?
Yeah, I've been contacting everyone, phoning them, being like, "Here, do you want free tickets?" Send them into the group chats. But I'm just really looking forward to it. I think it's something that I've not played at a stadium before, so it's just something to really look forward to for all of us.
Yeah, like we were at the Rangers and Hibs game a couple of weeks ago, Ali. It's a great opportunity to get the family out and make a day of it.
Yeah, I think so, and I think I think you want to encourage as many people along as possible. I think you want to give people the opportunity to come and see the game. I think for kids playing, for girls playing, it's a really fantastic, the optics of it are good to come and see, you know, here's a pathway, here's the opportunities. And I think if you look at, like Suzanne, what did you retire in 2015?
Yeah.
If you look to where the game was 8 years ago to where it is now, it's taken massive strides forward. It's grown hugely. If you can sustain that level of growth, then over the next decade, it's exciting. I think we're still in that stage of growth. I think probably in a very embryonic stage of growth, but I think if you can try and build on it, and I think to that end, it's important to be seen to be playing at the stadium and to try and invite people along.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before we get to the weekend, we've got some Scotland duties to take care of. Ali, Scotland will take on the Netherlands at Hampden the second leg, 4-0 in the first leg. What did you make of that tie?
Yeah, I thought it was a bruising night for Scotland, if I'm being honest. I think I don't think any of us would question the standard of Holland or where the Netherlands are, a team that went out at the quarter-final stage to eventual winner Spain in the World Cup. I think, and this is without Vivian Miedema, who came back and came off the bench. But I think they're a fantastic team. I'm not sure that's where Scotland need to be comparing themselves. However, I think what was very disappointing was the cheapness of the goals that they conceded. I think they were architects of their own downfall. At 1-0, they started to come out. They started to play a couple of chances, and then they conceded a very cheap second goal, and then you just sensed the roof caving in on them. I think it'll be difficult to see anything other than a similar game at Hampden tomorrow night. I hope I'm wrong. I'd like to see him wrong. You think Erin Cuthbert has a chance to maybe come back in, who may offer something different. I think their hand was always going to be weakened without the loss of like three very influential players, without Caroline Weir, without Sam Kerr, without Emma Watson, and then also without Erin. I think I just don't know that Scotland have the depth to cope without players of that quality. But again, I just think the cheapness of the goals was very disappointing.
Suzanne, has that been key on that game the other night then, not having those big players there on the pitch?
Yeah, I think so. I think you touched on, Caroline Weir. For me, she's one of the top players in Europe, and lucky for us, she's, wearing a Scotland jersey, but she's a massive loss when she's not there. I think, particularly when I watched the game the other night, I think, the midfield did struggle a little bit, and you say you're missing that experience and quality in there. But I think the overall disappointing thing for the girls would have been the way they conceded the goals, because they were preventable, and they'll have watched them back. I know Rachel Corsey spoke at the end of the game, they will sit and put themselves through the pain of watching it, which you have to do because you've got to learn. And yeah, they will be desperate that, it might not be a result that Scotland get, at the game, the return game at Hampden, but they want and they need a better performance.
Definitely. Cara, what's going to be key for Scotland then in this second leg?
I think that, you were right when saying that I don't think we're really, I don't think we're sort of, these games against Netherlands, the expectation obviously is that you want to put in a good performance, but the result will take care of itself. But I think that definitely just avoiding cheap goals, and I think also just being more confident on the ball. I thought that it was just sometimes cheap turnovers, so that if we can keep the ball, can we also at Hampden should be a decent crowd. I know the wee girls I coached, a lot of them are going and really looking forward to it. So hopefully being at Hampden and just learning from the other night, we can put in a good performance. And I honestly think that on the night anything can happen, and hopefully the Netherlands come into it underestimating us as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's an interesting point. We were talking about where the game was and where it is now and stuff, and for anyone going along to Hampden, and any like the young girls that you coach going along to Hampden tomorrow, and you've got Rachel Corsey's picture on the National Stadium up there alongside Andy Robertson just as you're walking in. But could you ever have envisaged that when you were playing?
Probably not, to be honest. But it's massive, and it's the way it should be. And I know Rachel, I know her well, and I know she, feels a real honour captaining the country, and it's something that, she does a lot behind the scenes as well to sort of promote. But it's a great opportunity, to go to Hampden as a young girl, again, something I personally didn't do, to go and watch the national team and, see your heroes on the pitch. When you can see and feel and touch these things, it becomes a reality and it becomes a dream for these little girls, and we need more and more opportunities to see that, whether it be Hampden, whether it be Firhill, Celtic Park, we need to keep giving, young girls this opportunity.
How do you think the national team has come on across the last decade? What was your experience of being involved with Scotland? I know there were criticisms, very much publicised criticisms of the structure behind the scenes, and maybe there were still some frustrations about the professionalism, which, you know, we all know what happened, and there seems to be a kind of agreement and consensus going forward. But where was it when you were playing?
Yeah, I think, you know, again, it was different. You know, simple things and small things like, you know, the kit and things. You know, you didn't have your own kit. You know, you were waiting for kit to come back from another team. You know, it was just very unprofessional, if we're honest. But I think, you know, as I've touched on as well, like the technical ability and the quality of players that we had in those Scotland teams was phenomenal as well. You know, some of the players that I played with at that point in time, you know, your Joe Loves, your Megan Sneddons, you know, some of the best midfielders to ever play in this country. But just different resources, you know, round about that to allow us to really, really, you know, push on and thrive. Although, you know, back then we got good results against teams where we were, you know, pushing above our weight back then as well. But I think, you know, where they are now is where it should have been, you know, long before now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before we finish off then, let's get a prediction. Hopefully Scotland can surprise Netherlands. Cara, I'll start with you.
1-0 Scotland.
1-0 Scotland. Suzanne?
Right, let's... it's difficult, honestly, difficult on the size of the pitch to see, you know, Holland not, you know, probably get the result, but, you know, being positive, maybe a 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw, Ali?
I'm going to pour rain and water and out on sticks. I think it'll be 3-0 with the Netherlands.
3-0 Netherlands, right. I'll go 2-1 Scotland then. Outvoted here, Ali. On behalf of myself and Alison, thanks to Cara and Suzanne for joining us. This weekend, get yourself along to Firhill to watch the girls play. And of course, Scotland this week as well. We'd love to hear your opinion all across our social media platforms. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.